Hello, everyone. It's Shannon Port, divine feminine astrologer and teacher of the feminine mysteries. And we are here today for the Art of the Feminine platform as a kickoff for the Lilith mysteries. And if you've been following my work in the past, I want to say April, May, June, July, August, September, about 6 months, we have been working on the feminine esoteric codes. And so if you're new to this work and my channel, make sure to check out the feminine esoteric codes. There's several lectures where we work with the divine feminine archetypes. And so if you're new to this work, Art of the Feminine is built on the light body woman archetype. My very first podcast ever was the Global Light Body Woman teleconference. And all of the work for the Art of the Feminine podcast was about the archetypal activations of the light body woman on this planet. And so Lilith is really, really significant. It's very significant for me in my personal path of carrying the resurrection codes of the dark feminine in order to heal womankind. And so I had announced Lilith back in May, and I think I said this in the last video, and there has been so much that felt like it wouldn't let it come on. And I've talked about this in the last few videos. What has happened, and I'll just say this really quickly, and then I have a couple things to announce. And we're going to go deep into the Piscean lunar eclipse and the equinox. So we are right now in time and space. We are between this lunar eclipse in Pisces that took place on the 17th. I'm recording live today on the 20th. And the fall equinox, the autumnal equinox, or the Libra equinox on September 22nd. So this week is a portal, genuinely, truly. The Piscean energy activates the Vesica Pisces, which is very similar to the equinox. It's a balancing energy, balancing of force. And if you haven't seen the post I wrote a post today on Instagram, and I think my language was too extreme because it didn't really go through. But you can, if you go check Art of the Feminine on Instagram, there's a writing. The new series, so Lilith is getting her own series, and I didn't even realize that until a couple weeks ago, and I announced it in the last video because her energy was so intense, and it just came to light. This has been my personal work and the personal journey of carrying the Art of the Feminine platform. And right now, for me personally, it's at a peak. And I would say it's at what would be called initiation or crisis point. And I hadn't even consciously fully understood it, but I mentioned when we did the Lilith Mars Algol Uranus conjunction that was right on my sun, right on my Lilith, and it was hitting my ascendant and my Neptune. It was hitting my grand square that I have. That was huge. But this past lunar eclipse, and I'm sharing more about myself this year, and so this is quite significant. The lunar eclipse was on my North Node. It was a couple degrees away. My North Node is at the very end of Pisces, and it's conjunct Neptune right now. And so when the North Node conjuncts the transiting North Node conjuncts your North Node, it's a time of really, really heightened revelation and culmination. And it brings things in, especially with this work, because this is spiritual work and my mission is spiritual. And the North Node itself is in Pisces at the very last degree of the zodiac in the 12th house. So it's a completion of the zodiac wheel. Pisces is the sign of crucifixion, which we're all entering as the North Node enters Pisces in January 2025. This is huge. This is huge. And I only realized I've known it's coming, but I'm like, "Oh my god, this is the completion of a certain level in the art of the feminine work." And, my North Node also falls in the 8th house, and so we've been working on the 8th house mysteries. The 8th house mysteries are the mysteries of Lilith. They're the mysteries of the underworld. They're the mysteries of marriage. They're the mysteries of dissolving. They're the mysteries of contracts. They're the mysteries of wisdom. They're the mysteries of regeneration. They're the mysteries of deception, bondage, and being overpowered. You could also say they're the mysteries of inversion, the 8th house mysteries. And so let me just see where I want to go. I'm just going to take a moment right here to announce this, that I also have, with this Lilith series coming in on YouTube, a new course that I'm teaching, and I'm so excited about this course. I'm so excited about it. I was going to announce it here, but I'm going to wait and announce it on Equinox. So make sure to either sign up for my newsletter at artofthefeminine.com if you're not on it, or check back here. I will link it here after I announce it. And you can also find it on Instagram. I'll be launching it on Instagram and doing the lead up to it. But there's a new course coming for this Lilith work. And also, I'll just say this also really quick, that if you would like to meet with me to find out about the 1 year school, I'm available for that too. And I'm sorry, I forgot to throw that in, but I will put a link underneath this video. And I'm actually going to do the calls myself for this cycle because of the course that I'm launching. So if you're interested in a year-long study, which is all about this work, and I'll say more about it later, you can sign up to do a call with me. I'll be doing the interviews this time, 15 minutes, if you're interested in long-term study. So here we go. We're going to really go into Lilith today. All right, let's just take a moment and tune. Let's do Solar Venus prayer, because we're going to be opening up some things that I'm going to be speaking on, and I'm not even sure yet how they'll come in, but over the next couple months, I'll be speaking on some of the things that I haven't really said out loud, but that this work embodies and carries. And so to kick off, we'll just do I am in the 7 directions, to activate the holy presence that is within the heart. This work with Lilith will be about the regeneration of the heart and the body by reclaiming the serpent power, the serpent force. The name of this series, Lilith is getting her series, is Lilith and Eve, the serpent and the prophetess. Lilith and Eve, the serpent and the prophetess. And so this is the polarity integration that we do every time we do I am in the 7 directions. And so just taking a moment, repeat after me. We do this prayer, it's about 30 seconds to a minute. The goddess in the heart, the cosmic goddess in the sun. We say, I am before me. I am behind me. I am at my left. I am at my right. I am above me. I am below me. I am unto me. I am, I am, I know I am. I am, I am, I know I am. Right. Okay. Oh, it's so good to be here. Okay, so I'm going to try to go. I have a house full of company right now. It's kind of crazy. This week has been crazy. Let me know. Okay, so this is the first eclipse in Pisces, a lunar eclipse, very Lilith archetype. So we work with the archetype symbols and codes here. The whole platform here is built on the feminine archetypes or the divine feminine archetypes and their activation, which activates the full spectrum of womanhood. And these archetypes and codes also are the portals into the cosmic book of life, you could say tree of life. The cosmic knowledge comes through archetypes. Archetypes are the symbol of the goddess, the symbols of the goddess. They are the language of the feminine mysteries. They are the holy codes and the divine condensed energy of light and wisdom. It is through deep contemplation, meditation, and revelation of the archetypes that we are privy to receiving those books. In the Akashic realms, the books are held as living transmission through archetypes. And so that's why we call this the divine archetype podcast. I'm seeing which word that was coming in. The divine archetype podcast. Yeah. All right, today we look at Lilith. I just wrote this and wrote this right before I came on and I'm going to read it. So I'm going to try to do this in about we'll probably go for an hour today. We've been going longer in the lectures, but what will happen is this is the introduction to Lilith and then we will proceed with her. We'll let her flow through the archetypes as they unfold. Today is the lunar eclipse in Pisces that we just had. We have a coming eclipse in Libra and we have the equinox. The problems in our world do not stem from woman being not pure enough. They originate from woman being not powerful enough. The problems in our world do not stem from the woman not being pure enough. They originate from woman being separated from her true power and glory, her spiritual power, her divine feminine force. Eve did not create the sins of man as a woman. Eve is the full force of the moon. She is the divine feminine serpent force, and Lilith is her holy sister in the underworld. Lilith is the power of womanhood to access the true jewel in the heart. The light body woman archetype, the archetype of light body woman is the figured 8 and the hourglass of time. We say that woman is the representative in time, of time, in the underworld. She holds the key to time as Saturn, as Binah, as the dark mother. She enforces our learning through time. She is the maiden, the mother, and the crone. The world is dying because of Eve's broken heart. The world is dying because of Eve's broken heart that has turned her into her rage, her jealousy, her envy, her competition, her doubt, and her inverted vanity. She has become the material of the suspicion and the conspiracies and the fallen word. She must connect her serpent force to access her full power. And so I'm just going to take a moment and speak to that. This is the reclamation of womanhood. And I invite all of you, even men who may be watching this, we always say men and non-binary, and I will be speaking to that a little bit. So I'll be speaking to a lot of the gender stuff in the coming months because there's a lot to be said, a lot. And in the past few years, I would say that I had to travel into some deep, deep spaces to uncover the path forward. It's big, and it has to do with everything. It has to do with technology. It has to do with the fallen Mars force. It has to do with the regeneration of the body of love. This is the time of the return of Sophia. So when we say the broken heart of woman, the eighth house mysteries have to do with marriage, and they have to do with love. They have to do with, as well as Pisces, there's a kind of a betrayal of oneself, a forgetting of oneself. There's a self-denial in Scorpio, in the eighth house. There's a shame of one's own being. The Scorpio energy is such power, but Scorpio natives oftentimes are they don't show it, but they carry shame. So there's a shame in Scorpio. Scorpio is very connected to Lilith, and we always hear talk about how Venus in Scorpio is very Lilith energy. So let me just see if there's anything else I want to say about that. Scorpio is a feminine sign. It's the work of the dark feminine, the dark mother, the work of Kali, who we work very closely with in all of the mentorships here. Kali is associated with this time of year, and Kali carries the power of regeneration, but she holds secret codes of the union of the masculine and the feminine, and why the understanding of the king and the queen are so important at this time. So before we move on, I'll just say that the world is dying because of the broken feminine heart that we all carry. You can say the collective feminine wound. We've all played every role. We've all played the role of male and female, but it's the feminine that was submerged and was used as food for the lower forces. Her body was a sacrifice and her energy and her power were used in order to keep that energy as the resources and the wealth of the archons and the dark forces as we go into the mythos and the mythology of it. A woman has to remain in ignorance of her truth and her true power. So this is a kind of feminism, but it's wholly divine feminism. It's the spiritual feminism that will regenerate the fallen Mars and give birth to Mars as light body Shakti. And we'll be talking about Mars in just a moment. So, Today, we're going to talk about the body of desire. Desire is desire, and well, first of all, Scorpio in the eighth house is also pure dragon current. It's the sexual force. And the fact that it's a feminine sign gives us a lot of information about that. So, we're going to be working with the body of desire. We'll be working deeply with the imagination. The imagination is the generative force. The imagination is the eye of Kali and the visioning fountain of creation. It's the eye of God. And so Pisces is the sign of the artist and the creative imagination. It's also the sign of the subconscious mind and the dark feminine. The imagination works through poets. It works through poetry, mythology, writing, film, painting, art. I've often said art of the feminine is founded on the art of the poets, the art of the alchemists, the art of the creative imagination as the divine feminine force. The imagination holds keys to the heart. We'll say that the male mysteries and the male, even the occultists, the esotericists, the priests, have not accessed the true power of the feminine for one reason. They fail to address Eve's heart as woman. Eve's heart is the key. Lilith and Eve are a joint power. The mysteries of Lilith and Eve are very deep. I just thought of something. I think it's a story. I think this is a good time to share something, a little something personal. So, when I lived in Manhattan, a friend took me, it was always a friend that would take me to these things, took me to I'm gonna say something else. Just one moment. I'm gonna save that one. When I first entered the Akashic record, this is where I want to go with this. When I first entered the Akashic record back in 2007, it was 2.5 months before I went through the separation and divorce with my son's father. I entered the Akashic record and I was referred by a friend. When I entered the Akashic record, the first thing that the masters asked me to do was to see a shaman. This was something that was definitely not on my radar. Now, I had lived in LA for many years, and shamanism is a very kind of big on the West Coast and big in LA, and I have the most respect for it. In fact, shamanism is very close to Kabbalah, which is the vortex that I work in. They had me see like the top female shaman in LA, and they gave me her number, and I called her and I made an appointment. I was living on the East Coast and she was on the West Coast, and she worked the very same way that I worked in my fertility rituals, which was kind of cool to see because I was sort of new to that world of actually working with people who did things like this. So we did a 90-minute session where she went into her journey and I went into a meditative state on the East Coast, and she was on the West Coast, which is kind of cool. And so during that 90 minutes, I received, because I'm a pretty deep meditator, I was empty, but I also was writing. And afterwards, she called me. For whatever reason, I meant to put this in right here. When she called me, she said, "Shannon, I'm really sorry." She said, "I've never had this happen before." And she said, "I don't have much for you." She said, "And what I do have isn't super clear, but I will give it to you." And then we spent a few minutes on the phone and that was it. And she said, "This has never happened to me, but I have to be honest with you." She said, "I went in and I was shown that you had a lot of lifetimes spent in Greece and in Rome. And she said, in those lifetimes, your life was about pure beauty and purity. She said it was the highest form of feminine beauty. And she said it was all that you lived and what your life was about. She said, but you're carrying the darkest wounds from this period. And she said they're lodged in your second sacral chakra. And she said, I've never seen anything like this. She said, it's hard for me to look at, and I cannot understand what it is. But she said, you are carrying it. She said, you're carrying it right now. It's still there. And you will have to address this, and you will know what to do. And then she said, it's from that time. And she said, I can't make sense of it because your life was pure beauty. And then she said, they took me to the halls of wisdom and they showed me your book. And she said it was on the top shelf. There was a ladder and many, many shelves. And she said, your book with your name on it was on the very top shelf, and it's gold. And she showed me the ladder. They showed her the ladder. This was in her journey. And she said, they will not allow me to look inside it, but they want you to understand this imagery. And this is all that I have for you. She said, it's unlike anything that I usually receive in these journeys. And so I'll just say really quick, the images that I got were from ancient Egypt. And there was only a few, but I wrote it down and I did not know what they meant when they came, and I told her, and she said, these are profound. And that was it. So for whatever reason, that memory just came in right now, but I know why. I know why. And so just one moment. That was given to me 2.5 months before what would be a really big initiation and event in my life. I've talked about it. I talked about that in the Venus mysteries. I went into or maybe actually in the Magdalene mysteries. I talked about some of my personal journey in love relationships, and my journey, just to disclose, has been about love and the human heart and what happens to the female heart in a love relationship. And so I talked about that in Magdalene's video. And then in the Venus mysteries, I talked about conception and birth of my son. My son, I already had my son at this time. Okay, I'm gonna leave that. So I will say this, that the denial of the lower force is a pure wound that woman carries. I know this now. So this is going back to 2007 when I had that. There's been a lot of chapters since then in Art of the Feminine, a lot. And I will say that the upcoming 8-week course is going to address this in a way that I've never been able to speak before, of the dark feminine and the reclaiming of the crone in a very big way. So what I will say, we all know the archetypes of Rome and the virgins of light, and Rome and Greece, and the purity that was harnessed by the masculine empires of the pure feminine force. This also can be applied and looked at through the archetype of the church. And so I have a huge background. My education was at a school named for the Virgin Mary. And what the church has done, and we'll be speaking to we've been speaking the past many months. I've mentioned many books. We've been talking about the witch hunts, the crusades, the demonization of the mysteries of the feminine, and how at certain periods, for very specific reasons, the mysticism was dropped. The mysticism accessed the pagan realms, and it accessed the Celtic realms. And so women were way too close to that. In their psyche, if any of that would have been held in the church teachings by the church fathers, it would have stimulated the female spirituality too much. It would have been out of control. And so I'll just leave that for now. The virgin is the unattainable female archetype that denies conception of the king and the queen. It is always a step removed from a human woman. The human woman cannot attain to literally be the Virgin Mary. So the archetype that is honored is always unattainable for a human woman. Now, this gives us access to the feminine, and that's beautiful. And I honor that. And I know from my past journey with the rosary that the spiritualized feminine force of Mother Mary, her cosmic purity and grace and truth as the Queen of Heaven, is everything. And we can call upon her even energetically and be redeemed without a doubt. So we'll start with that. And the devotion to her is holy, and it's very, very sacred. But by now, we'd have to look a little bit also we've been talking a lot about the Gnostics, the early Christians, and the pagans, the pagan mysteries, which absolutely had their degeneration. They had their heyday and their fall, where they were reduced to mixing the sacred and the profane. They were reduced to carnal cravings and to the bowing to aspects of the elements as individualized gods and putting those gods over the holy presence of the Christ force. We've spoken to that. However, the early Gnostics, which valued holy relationships, the equality of the male and female, or the mother and the father, the sacredness of that container, and the alchemy that is done to purify the craving and dragon current, we call the sexual nature, to see beyond the illusion of time, of maiden, mother, and crone. Primarily the fear, the competition, the pain, the suffering that exists on our planet, make no mistake, is the pure rejection of the female as she ages into her wisdom. That is the highest desecration. That as a woman is ripening and has gone through initiations, she is discarded, often for a younger woman. This is without a doubt an issue that you will never, rarely, now the church addresses it, but in the mysteries of the male lineages, it's dangerous to approach that topic because most of the male lineages are held up by the constant supply of the female adoration of the maidens and the mothers and the crones who have foregone and given up the truth of the pain that they carry. These are the mothers of the world who have given birth, who have raised the sons of the King, who have sacrificed their heart on the holy altar of love, who have given and opened their flower in full bloom only to be crucified and shamed and forgotten. This perpetuation of this Lilith energy has created the demons in the underworld, the female demons that want revenge, that want power, and that want to take down, let's say, the patriarchy. Even the lower demons of our political feminism are fueled by this. This is an unconscious feminine rage that wants the satisfaction of feeling, you know, that feeling of sweet revenge, cold revenge. That saying, revenge is best served cold. It's that patterning. And only the female heart can raise this energy into the truth of the true expression of the divine feminine. This archetype is everywhere. All of Hollywood, all of social media glorifies this in ways that we are so programmed to deny the female pain and go along with the narrative. It's so much easier and it's so much cooler. You can be part of the guys. You can be part of the conspiracies because you don't speak out. Instead, you join the opposition. This is where we are at. This is where we are at on this planet. And so, just one moment, the church carried I'm using the church as one archetype of organized religion because I know it well. They carried the archetype of the reverence and sanctity of marriage. It was very smart because that alone brought the Gentile women from the Roman Empire into that spiritual order, because women in Rome were considered property, even though some were educated and some had high positions. The Vestal virgins were privy to everything because they were virgins, they were pure, and they were youthful, discarded around the age of 30. Now, a young virgin also holds a certain kind of spiritual energy. But again, an archetype of female purity that is unattainable and used as the protection of the masculine empire. The church, so many of the women in Rome rushed into spirituality because there was something so inviting with Christianity, and that was that you will be equal with your husband. And the idea of teenagers, which were often married to men 50 or older. We love this archetype on this planet. We still worship it. I'm telling you, I get to speak to it firsthand. It is so real. And the female carries that resentment and that bitterness from this. In fact, I dare say that this whole new generation of women who don't want children and don't want to get married are the backlash of all of this. And there's nothing wrong, especially now, of being a woman of power who chooses not to get married. Now, some are going to have to. We need to bring in the human race, which is what this work is about, the fertility of the incoming race. However, what the church did is they sanctified marriage in a really real way. And I can say, seeing people I know who still practice and are in that, there is much more um, there is much more honoring of the male female companionship throughout the ages, and it makes it much harder to divorce. Now there's all kinds of things we could say about that are not empowering to a woman. Trust me, a woman, if a woman's in a bad marriage, she needs to be able to walk out of that. I will say this also, right now, there are certain aspects coming out of Silicon Valley that are really speaking to the old misogyny of the woman and her vote, the woman and her right to own anything, the woman and her right to leave a marriage. There's a lot of whisperings, and I'm very aware of them. And there's a lot of writings of the past of some people who are very prominent right now that will let you know what is hidden in this traditional value type of system. There's nothing wrong with values that honor marriage and that honor motherhood. Nothing wrong with that at all. But the desire for male power has never been stronger. And as there's a battle happening for technology, both sides are amplified, but I will save this when we get into that deeper. So, where do we go from here? The darkness in this world must be addressed through the honoring of the female heart. The female heart breaks everybody. We all have a female heart, just to say that, male and female. And a lot of the males who have been attracted to my work hold more of a female polarity and are genuinely carrying that. There are some issues right now. I would say the left has really pushed certain things that will make you raise your eyebrow as someone who's done this work and say, whoa, 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 whoa. When it comes to gender, there's a lot happening. And it's going to be really interesting times in the coming years. So, healing the woman's power, having her remember her truth, what she's afraid to say, for being shamed, for being kicked out of the tribe. This just came to me. I will say this, that when I mentor, when I did a lot of one-on-one mentoring for years, and then I did the long 3-month mentorships which were so deep. And when I work one-on-one with women, fact, after years and years, you see the pattern. The thing that women fear most rarely is in a male form. When women get really intimate and start to talk about what they think about, it's the other females, because there is an ingrained competition, an archontic programming, and something that keeps a lid on it unless it explodes and becomes kind of a form of rage that can be categorized as hysterical, histrionic, evil, demonic, because it goes to that place. So this is a trick of the archons. So in this era, to reclaim the word, you have to be really truthful with yourself about the hurts. Now, I want to be also say that the females that are, let's say, the female that archetype that's betrayed also has carried a trigger. She gets triggered, and when she gets triggered, she gets flustered and gets vengeful and mean, and uses her words for spite and for contempt, because she's flustered, and she bypasses her spiritual depth and goes right to that layer of the true demonic energy. And so it sabotages her own friendships and relationships because her organization of her force is scrambled, and the truth of her holy word gets lost in the humiliation or the shame. So one of the mission of this work is to be able to speak. Doesn't mean it won't get messy at times, and to articulate what is really going on in show business, in social media, who's held up and glorified, the women who go along and the men who just triumph after all their pushing aside. They get so, they're still like honored as being like, what a man, what a man. He is still at this age or that age. There's a real archetype to be understood there. And again, this place I'm speaking now, there's zero charge in it. I'm speaking strong, but my vehicle doesn't really have a charge around it because I know the truth of the feminine mysteries. I know in my own being now, which has healed the sacral and left just enough to remember why. Because that ability to forget that hypnotic trance, that delusion of Pisces is always one thought away. Notice the things that you constantly forget. You have it and you're like, wow, that's huge. And then it's gone. And you're back to the everyday narrative. Write them down. Pisces is dreams. Pisces is journaling. It's writing. It's Neptune. It's the writer. And it's the true, it can be either the deepest deception or the highest pristine. That is the moon. The mysteries of the moon hold the height and they hold the depth. They enter into the realms of the demonic, which is what we'll talk about right now. Whew, I feel her coming in now. And this is the thing, just looking at Christianity again. This is the thing. I've got my goddess Mat on. She's Libra eclipse is coming up, and we're gonna start to go deep. By the way, I uploaded my first video in like 3 or 4 years, and I was happy to see that it's still going through. So I'm still going to be I have 2 other videos for Eve that are coming. Please make sure to subscribe, like the video, come back and comment as well, because there's more coming. All right. So where do we want to start here? Let's look at, I'm just going to have a little water. Let's just look at the North Node entering Pisces. It's so big. The North Node and South Node represent the head of the dragon and the tail of the dragon. They are the lunar nodes. They are the nodes of Eve. They are the nodes of the moon. And if you don't know your own North Node, you must understand it. It's one of the first things we also do in Divine Feminine Astrology. We always do that. Know your North Node, what sign and what house. What sign and what house. Now, I work with, Western astrology because I work with the initiation of the solar force traveling, the sun traveling through the 12 signs with the equinoxes and the solstices. And so there's different ways of looking at it. I'm going to be talking more about that at another time. Know your North Node. It will give you your true north and your true healing for this lifetime. We will be moving the transiting North Node. So you have a North Node in your natal chart that shows where it was, where the eclipses were happening when you were born affects your entire life. This is not a joke. We know how real these influences are, and we can talk about why they're real. Watching the moon, the new moons and the full moons, the solstices and the equinox, is the first level of entering the feminine mysteries. That observance, and you always can tell people who already have that, it is so deep because that they are a source of feminine power, and they open truly, even though this word is said everywhere all the time now, they open portals. So in the collective, we're moving from Aries, Mars, fire. Look at what's happened on the planet right now. By the way, I just want to take a moment to send love to everyone in a war zone. I wrote about this. I wrote about it. I did a post. I did a few posts recently on Art of the Feminine. Come follow at Art of the Feminine. I'm doing more writing, or Facebook Art of the Feminine. So we talked about how um oh, I was writing about 9/11. I had been there. I was personally physically there on the site. I've talked about this in these videos a few times over the years, but I shared a picture of light body yoga was there. When I look at my life and I'm like, whoa, the coordinates that have been hit with this particular mission are very real. So I want to say that all over the world, it doesn't matter whether it's Gaza or Afghanistan or Ukraine, and on and on and on. First of all, the North Node in Aries amplified that, but it also vivified it so we can see it. There's huge movement saying no more. Now, I'm going to do a Q. I keep promising this. We will do a Q&A where we talk shop about the logistics of what's happening. I won't put it in this video, but woman can stop this right now. And why do you think she is blocked? The true feminine force has the power to not go out and take down anything, but to activate it within her own imagination. We work with the very different levels of imagination, which are the levels of the moon. The moon is imagination, and so is Venus. And there's the deluded imagination. That's the hypnotic trance of Pisces on drugs and just spun out on conspiracies and suspicion, which have taken over the planet right now, by the way. All good forces have mingled. The sacred and the profane has been lost. It's been politicized in ways that are not carrying the truth because they have to bow to the old power. You cannot be amplified in that world unless there's something being given to prop that up. But within our hearts, as mothers, as priestesses, as artists, as creators, as scientists, as teachers, as holy women and holy men, we look inward and we say, there's a different vision. This is the vision of the coming goddess epoch. There's a new vision, and that vision is being born. Hop into that vision. Live in it yourself. You must live in that vision now. Make your kingdom holy with the magic of these archetype symbols and codes. Love them, treasure them, know them. The dark forces are powerless against the risen light body woman. Back in the day, I'm still going to go back and look for some of these posts. I did a lot of posts about this. The Light Body Woman teleconference, which was on winter solstice in 2012, was about this power and the return of the power of the light body woman. This is where we are. We're in it right now. So this is the time to understand it. And I will say, even though I'm speaking out kind of bluntly about things, it's not about going out and shaming anyone outside yourself or being like, oh yeah, they're bad, they're doing that, or look at these people. Even politically, I try to stay away from that. I have some pretty deep understanding of the direction things are going, which is very intense, but aligned with the times. But it's not about that, because ultimately that saying, "Forgive them, Father, of the Christ on the cross, for they know not what they do," that can be applied to all of humanity. It doesn't mean in your own life you don't have a boundary and call something out when needed and say, "No, no, 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 no." And that you see that happening on both sides in politics. There's a time to say no and to fight and to get a little scrappy. There's a time for that. There's a time you got to play the game. Anyone in politics. However, we're getting to the point now where the truth will override the lies, and the addiction to conspiracy will be replaced with the desire of true knowledge. Conspiracy is an addiction. It's a porn. It's a form of porn. It's addictive, and it's taken over the spiritual movements. I've talked about this, the alternative media, all of it. When I studied this for 2 years, I've always been, my work, and over the years I've talked about, tuned into some of the different things in the truth. But in February 2022, I've mentioned that I was told, just by my own guidance, you need to back way out and really see what's happening. And so I studied it, and I'll just say a little bit about it. It is so easy to take over a whole movement. It is so easy. It takes a couple blog posts, an operative, a saying of a non-truth, or something that holds a little truth, and a befriending, and you're done. It doesn't matter whether it's a politician, it doesn't matter whether it's a priestess. Either or can be brought in. And then there's forms of bribing that are beyond, and forms of just getting so wealthy, pouring so much cash through various streams into certain platforms that it's a high. It's like, I must be doing the right thing. I'm getting rich doing this. That is a temptation. And I will say, over the past few years, my work was approached many times about certain things, and was also, attacked when I talk about some of the interference in a very real way. So it's an addiction, and it ropes in a lot of people. It's because people with Piscean energy and feminine energy are looking for the truth. But the mixing of the sacred and the profane really scrambles people. And then we give our power to a movement without understand it's happening everywhere. See if I can do an example. So just put it this way, in the conspiracy world, what I learned for absolute certainty is there's a right stream and a left stream working for the same God. And they even fight each other. And they're curated for the taste of this or this. We tend to be, on the spectrum, we tend to be born with an orientation towards this ideology or that ideology. One's a little more conservative, going all the way to the full on. One's a little more liberal, more artistic, and more like, no, I'm going to work. I need some freedom. I have to work with some things. It's funny because they end up becoming the shadow of each other. But so these people have to be approached very differently. And let me see what I can say. A lot of the promises of things that are coming, I'm going to use the word promises instead of prophecy. So we're doing Lilith and Eve as the serpent and the prophetess. Promises about, getting back this, or taking down this, or disclosing this. That's a big one. Fully run, fully. It has fully taken over in a way that has muted the truth of the divine feminine. And, we've talked about how it's good that people are returning to spirituality. And we talked about, for 2 years, I was talking about a revival of religion, because people are tired of everything, and that gives us structure. But the true revival is here. It's of the body of love. It's of the union of Lilith and Eve, and the integration of power, that the altar of love, human love, is remembered. It won't be remembered by everyone, but there has to be a critical mass of humanity that holds that values that, so that woman stops rejecting herself and her power, which translate into her sons rejecting their spiritual power. Okay. Oh, I this just popped up. It's in front of me, so I'm gonna say it. Then we'll talk about Pisces. Let me see how long I've been going. Okay. All right. So, okay. Ah, okay. Oh, I wanted to say this. This is about one of the Jesus shows. So I watched it. I watched there was a series out that was really popular. I watched it a year and a half ago or so. Wow. Yeah, maybe, yeah, about a year and a half ago. So in this scene, the very first scene of this series that's about Jesus, um, first of all, the fact that they named Magdalene Lilith, I thought was genius. It was so brilliant, even though it's missing a huge part. And I talked about how I went on this app, and the very first thing they say about Magdalene is, oh, there's a lot of, untruths about her, or stories and myths about her, but we just want to set things straight. No, 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 no. So that's what's still very much the narrative around Magdalene. So, and I want to say something about the Da Vinci Code also, which is huge. So, in this episode, which is what makes hooks everyone in, and they just did it and they did it without knowing how profound it would be. I bawled for an hour. And so I've heard many people say this. When I saw it, I was like, it was like, whoa, that's what made me watch the whole thing. So there's a Jesus and there's Magdalene, but she's named Lily. She's Lilith. And Lilith is the possessed witch of the town. She's possessed, and she's possessed. She's like the underbelly of Pisces. She's the woman who's the embodiment of the demons. And that's real. Like, she really carries that, and she foams at the mouth and she shakes, and she's so beautiful, but she's tossed aside. I think they keep her in a barn on hay. She's lying down in fetal. And they have like these rabbis trying to heal her and get these demons out, and they're doing all their rabbinical prayers and their exorcisms, and they can't get it out. And Lilith is just like, she's tortured, and she's the joke. She's the joke of the town. What's the word that wanted to come, the joking, the something about livestock. So she goes into the bar, she hangs with the guys. At night, she goes into the bar, and the bar is underground. She has to walk down to get in the bar, and it's really old, and they have like the tables, and the guys are there playing their games, drinking beers, and she sits right at the bar, belly up, and gets a beer, and she just has this like possessed look, and she's beautiful, by the way. The actress is beautiful. I love her. And you know he serves her up like he always does. She's a drinker, and he puts the drink on her, right in front of her, and here is Jesus, the man, Yeshua, right next to her. She's sitting, and I think he's standing. I can't remember. It's been a while. And she gets her drink, and she's not aware of him. And I can't remember. I'm paraphrasing what he says, but and it's very dark and candlelit. They're underground, which shows they're in the dark. They're on the dark side of the Piscean belly, in the dark feminine. And he says to her, don't drink that, or don't do this, something like that. And she looks at him, and the serpents inside her look so mad at him, like, how dare you speak to me and tell me what to do? But you can see visibly that it's the demons inside her speaking through her, because the demons want her to drink. Just like with any addict, it's the dark forces inside saying, do it, you need it, this will empower you. And Jesus says, don't take that, you don't need that. And it infuriates her. And I can't remember exactly how it happens, but she walks out. And she's walking down the path, and it's nighttime, and the candles are lit along the way. And then you see this image of Jesus coming out of the tavern or the bar, following her. And she's walking, and she's a ways ahead of him. And he stops, and he says, Mary. And you see her just freeze. I have full body goosebumps right now. And it's in that moment that she remembers who she is. He calls her Mari or Mary, and her name is Lilith, but he calls her Mary. And she turns to him. And you can just tell in that moment, I can't remember if she cries because I know I was bawling. Everybody that watches that sees that moment. It's worth watching it just for that, because that is the woman being seen by the man. That, not that she needs it, he is the Christ force. He is the living logos, the verbum in the flesh. He is divine love. He is the purity of the male who sees beyond her physical form to know who she is, which is what happens in love relationships as we age, as men and women. Our body changes, our energy field changes, but the soul in a spiritual person gets brighter and brighter. And it is that flame that Christ saw in Magdalene. And him seeing that sparked a memory. She remembered and she walked, and it just, anyway, that's it. I didn't plan to say that whole thing, but he spoke the truth of her holy name, Mary. Now, Mary, Mother Mary, is the Vesica Pisces. She is the holy union of Lilith and Eve. Within Magdalene is Lilith and Mary in one female body, Lilith and Eve. So, Pisces. I'm going to read this. I don't remember. I wrote this a few days ago. I have so much for Lilith. Okay, so I wrote for some reason, black magic is real, but it needs the shadow body of the feminine for energy and power. So I put like dark magic. Dark magicians are real, and it needs the shadow body, the shadow of Venus for its trapped power. It uses fear, suppression, pain, and rage. It uses woman cutting off from the power and only identifying with the purity. The serpent of force of the light body woman uses all 8 chakras. It uses the lower ones to fire up and transmute, but the divine serpent force as the circuit of force is all of them. There are none that are denied, none. The figured 8 as the resurrected hourglass of time of the light body woman becomes the maiden, mother, and crone. She becomes the eternal maiden vessel, the goddess container where the Holy Spirit comes into her and she speaks the divine word without any denial. So religion is based on part denial. And in this era, we have to heal the heart of Eve. There's no other way. And we have to heal motherhood because the mother wound has made woman almost reject her own mother. And trust me, this generational mother wounds are huge. They're huge. They perpetuate a fallen society when the mother has authority and autonomy and her heart is balanced. The relationship between mother and child, which is one of the gifts that I got to receive in this lifetime, is a holy one with a lot of memory. And it's one with a lot of freedom, but with access to the knowledge and the truth. Is there something else about motherhood? The mother and the father, well, every child that enters this world comes from the king and the queen. There is no way to separate that. And it is that energy that makes up their field, and it is profound. So it requires both, and it requires the restoration of the responsibility and the beauty of bringing children and souls to this planet. In the coming epoch, we birth the sixth race, and this will be an elevated race, meaning it will be unified, and human beings will see each other not by separatist religious ideologies, even though some may exist, but will see each other as divine, and will understand better how to heal whatever is dysfunctional in terms of like bad behavior or crime or all darkness. War will start is it's gonna that's gonna change partly by dark and partly by light. So stop giving power to black magic. Stop giving it. And again, I want to say that let me just ask. The lower spells of the underworld, which keep people hypnotized, and they thrive on the lower serpents of lust and power and I want, you must die for me to live, or you must be my slave, or in order for me to have a lot, I have to see that a lot of people don't have anything. So there is a balancing coming. There will still be the mysteries. There will still be teachers and priests and priestesses that have advanced a bit. There will still be always be teaching. The cosmic hierarchy is based on this. Even with the planetary bodies, there are teachers, students, initiates, masters. It's part of the building of the created world. Obviously, in the truth of some of the male teachings, you could say it's all an illusion. On the highest level, it is, but we're in the illusion. We came for the illusion. We're in the dream. Pisces is dreams. We're not meant to bail out. You know, I was thinking of this earlier, about how nuns, and I have two nuns in my family. I grew up with sisters. I grew up in convents. I love convents because to me that was that was so natural. I'd go in from other times. I'd go in and be like, this is so great. The world is out there. You have your little chapel, you can pray. Beautiful, beautiful vocation. But if you have to step outside of life as a woman to be holy, you know, even in the church fathers, or what's it called? I forget. I think there's 36, and I think there's 4 women. There might be one mother, but like Teresa of Avila and Hildegard, they're nuns. So their vision is very real and sacred. And yet, somebody mentioned in the comment in the last video how I think it was Teresa of Avila who just denied her womanhood and said that was a hindrance to her spiritual awakening. No, that is not true. That is the part that's disinformation, put it that way. Okay. I'm going to read a couple things, then I'll look down. I wrote this and I'm not sure what it says. It was a few days ago, but it was for, okay, so just note. So as we move the North Node into Pisces, Lilith energy is on. We look at Lilith as Pisces in Divine Feminine Astrology. We put her in Pisces because she, I mean, she moves around, but that's where the dark moon is. That's the dark feminine. So Lilith is the part of the subconscious realms, the moon realms, that represents the dark moon. This is the part where the realm of imagination is the bottom dweller. That carries the darkest nightmares, dreams, and animal instincts to mate and kill. She carries the night terrors of the full moon, whereas the high priestess is the crystallization of the waters of conception and life. Lilith is death and fear, and the love of death and fear. She is the power trapped in the subconscious realm due to the feminine rage and suffering held within the collective subconscious. Her dark power can be summoned with blood sacrifice, torture, and deception. We see it all the time in culture, and even when it gets out of control in film and in the industry and music industry a lot. She is called forth, and once you know, and I didn't even remember writing this, she's called forth in music, film, art, and even now, technology. Now, to say really quickly that we believe in honoring the dark archetypes in art, my favorite role on stage ever played was Lady Macbeth, which is a pure embodiment and personification of Lilith. Shakespeare was right on with the three witches, who are the personification of the fates, and they give the spells to Macbeth. Huge. This is how theater is genius and art is genius, because it reveals to us the archetypes, the codes, and the symbols that have a correspondence within us. It is the transmission of the Akashic realms and even the higher. The archetypal plane is the divine plane. Archetypes stem from the very beginning of the light stream. They are the eggs and the sperms of the entire creation. And so understanding poetry and mythology and art will be heightened in the age of Venus. That's what it's about. The age of Aquarius is the understanding that everything doesn't have to be Virgin Mary pure, but our intention and our alchemy has to be genuine and authentic. For her, her number is 666. She is the moon. Lilith is the shadow body of Venus. She is the inversion of the creative imagination that's been hijacked. She's the creative imagination in Leo represents the sun. She is the killing of woman's heart with pleasure that gives birth to Lilith. Every time a heart is betrayed in love and sacrificed, a new layer of Lilith is activated. Our planet is held in the underworld until Lilith has been transmuted and redeemed. This is the word of Sophia. This is the archetypal journey of the light body woman. The shadow witches work with Lilith. Those shadow witches of Macbeth, who are brilliant. That's my favorite part of the play. The witches in and I wrote it right here. The witches in Macbeth work with the shadow body Lilith. In fact, oh yeah, that's so funny. That's so funny. I remembered it. She is truly the embodiment of Eve, and Lilith are the polarity of the goddess body. They are the circuitry of divine feminine force that requires the full circuitry of the figured eight to ignite the full serpent power. Lilith is the power of the risen imagination in the heart. She is the dreaming faculty of Sophia, reclaimed. We call in light body yoga, light body dreaming. And by the way, there's a bunch of people doing light body yoga right now. And I just thought of that. I'm sorry. There's a lot of people in that course right now, which is one of the courses that's on my site. And we're going to be talking about this in the Q&A coming up. Okay. She's the reclaimed aspect of the feminine. So the zodiac, why a lot of mystery schools won't work with the zodiac, and there's a reason for it. The zodiac is a fallen body. It's the animal form of the human. And many of the zodiac signs are represented by animals. Indeed, it represents our animal powers within the body. And we work with the transmutation in divine feminine astrology of the transmutation of this archetypal body to the risen zodiac. That has been the work of divine feminine astrology over the past many years, and it's what we teach. And it is just, it's pure beauty. It's pure adventure. It's pure, the new divine feminine kingdom. And it's, I think of the new Avalon, very powerful. Okay. Oh, this is big. Okay. The shadow body Lilith destroys its host. It destroys its host. When you host Lilith, you may have fun for a while, but it will destroy you. Piece by piece, it will be a slow death, sometimes not, and it will be sometimes revenge served cold, meaning like you won't get the true effect of the actions until you least expect it. So when women are tied to Lilith codes, this is what happens. I know this well, and I've gotten to have a taste of it to really see how it works. Those, not all of it's bad, obviously, but a lot of deception used, and a lot of things are out of integrity. And when a woman who's awakened Lilith has eyes in the back of her head, she sees everything. She will not talk about what she sees, but she knows. That's gnosis, because she's privy to seeing the underworld and understanding the energetics that are that penetrate the field. And so as women, the reason the first code in Light Body Woman is how we treat other women is how we treat ourselves, because in this world serves us up things that feel really good, especially in that window when we feel there's a window with women where we feel like we can do no wrong because we're beautiful and everything, we're magnets for everything in youth. It's just how God made us, because we're meant to be able to be the flower and radiate light and, give birth and call things. That is one of the beauty of the maiden. However, that is misused in this world now, especially with the temptations of Lilith. You can have everything. You can be better than all the other women. You can take what they have. No one will know. Or nobody's going to know if you do this, as long as it makes you feel greater and bigger. And on some level, all women are programmed that way out of fear. This is Lilith's programming in her shadow body. It's a shadow body of Venus. And so we break the rules thinking it's okay. I'm on a spiritual mission. It doesn't apply to me. At the higher you go, the more you realize it actually applies to you. If you're a priestess, the saying is 16 times more. You have to know every energetic action. You have to understand, if I look at this, I've done this. If I feel lust rise up and I get this excitement or trigger, that's active in my body. And so it's hard. It's hard. I'm throwing out some of the advanced mysteries. It's deep, but it is so worth it, because the truth is the truth eternally. The body of love, the body of resurrection, the immortal body is that eternally. The light body woman is eternal. There's more that can be said about that. It's the only thing worth understanding. The purity of our heart, which is this, the goddess Mat, is everything. That's what she is in Libra. She's like, no, 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 no. It's a little lot. You have to be doing that dance in the pocket, in the window, to give birth to the high art. So, okay. The shadow body destroys its host. It eats the body of Eve and permanently disables her subtle currents, her vital energy that connect her with heaven. Those who carry the lower currents of Lilith are destined to suffer a cruel and punishing demise. But first, they will experience the high and the lust for the power realms of pleasure and inverted pleasure. And often this pleasure is associated with bondage and the deviation of the dragon force. Lower Lilith seduces and then destroys. She takes no prisoners and she always destroys her host, but she too is the inverted power of the desire of Venus. She holds the true body of desire. And the body of Venus is that balance of Lilith and Eve. Venus is the embodiment of Lilith and Eve. She is the revival of the body of love. When the union and reconciliation of Lilith and Eve is incomplete, the circuit of feminine force is healed and woman is no longer the virgin or the whore. She is no longer. She is Mary Magdalene. She is Venus, Sophia, solar Venus. Okay. Okay, I already said that. I'm glad I remembered that. She is whole. And she is the prophetess, the true prophetess that dares to speak what has been condemned, that dares to speak the truth of the female heart, the truth that is unpopular, the truth that is what, put women locked up in mental institutions, the truth that made women break down in love, the truth of the betrayal. She is the prophetess of both heaven and earth. She is the dark feminine mother of the world, as well as the queen of heaven. So we talked about I mentioned a book called The Hammer of Witches. I've mentioned quite a few books that I got to read. I'm going to make a book list and I'll put a downloadable file at artofthefeminine.com. I'll also be launching this 8-week course in the next day or two for equinox. So make sure to either get on my mailing list, which is where I send out these things and some of the writings, or check back at Art of the Feminine. You can follow on Instagram. But I'm going to make a book list because it's really important. Just to know that, just to validate, there's a book called Misogyny. There's a lot. What's the other one I'm thinking of? Oh yeah, there's a lot. We've been talking a lot about the witch hunts and the Crusades and Inquisitions. There's a lot of truth to them, and it's kind of bubbling up right now. It's bubbling. There's some of that happening, and it's going to take the power of the female heart to solve this. I'm going to just look through and see if there's anything else I think we got to a lot of it. I have carried the serpent of Lilith in a tradition that honors the virgin. This was something else I wrote. I have carried the serpent of Lilith in a tradition that honors the virgin. Something I haven't talked a lot about, but was the time I spent living in Los Angeles for 6 years as a teenager. And I'll be talking more about that as a late teenager into my early teens. That was definitely a massive underworld journey. It was just like being in New York City at 9/11. I was also in that I call it the devil's playbox, the devil's sandbox. When I left there, I did a channeled writing. I didn't even know what I was doing. And it talked about how the devil's sandbox, there's a lot around that I'll be talking about more. I went because of acting, obviously. Okay. That's it. All right. Talking a lot about Venus, a specific video. North Node is moving into, well, actually Venus is exalted in Pisces. We'll be talking about how, in the next video, how the North Node is moving from Aries into Lilith. Lilith is, she's Neptune. She used to be ruled by Jupiter. We associate Lilith with Jupiter. And that was a correspondence given that I did not understand, but it has grown and grown until it's in its full bloom. There's going to be, in terms of what's on the planet, if you go back in 2023, I did I think I did the esoteric feminine principle. I did 3 videos specifically about because that was a 7 year, it was a Neptune year about that, but I'm gonna go through and pick out some shorts from that and post the shorts on YouTube, and on Art of the Feminine at Instagram. We're gonna be seeing a lot of deception because Pisces is pure deception, a lot of illusion, a lot of decadent sort of like drag stuff because drag is ruled by Neptune and Pisces. It's Venus also, but meaning like that's a part of the human subconscious mind that comes out, and it's not bad or good. It's neutral. It's an expression, but the distorting of forms. Remember in 2023 when we talked about how fashion was really going to change and then it really changed the runway? It's going to be the weird because in ancient folklore the weird is kind of like Lilith and the witches. We're going to see the weird, we're going to see the desecrated for 2 years starting in January 2025, and we're going to see addiction, we're going to see a lot of substance abuse. It's something to understand that to take very seriously what you put into your body when it comes to something that alters consciousness. We'll be addressing that more, but this is going to be big. Now, please let me know what this was a different energy. This last week, I'll just tell you this and then we'll close out. This full moon lunar eclipse was on my North Node, which is a huge initiation, and it's conjunct Neptune at the end of the zodiac. So I was prepared for it and in prayer and meditation, and I was like, okay, wow, I guess nothing big is going to hit, and I was really good with that. That night I went to sleep. The reason I didn't do the video on Wednesday is because I didn't sleep, not even one drop that night. Pisces rules sleep, and that lunar eclipse, I did not sleep. It rules dream time. And then all of a sudden, the energy of that first Pisces eclipse hit, and I felt it in the environment. The last time that Pisces was in the North Node in Pisces was in 2006, 2007 for me. That was when I got divorced. It was a major time in my life. So you can look at what you were doing at that time in your life. This is a revisit of that patterning. Again, it was 2006 and 2007 was the last time. We will be in this energy going forward. And that energy, I felt it in the collective because that was the beginning of this next cycle. That was the first time the North Node has dipped into Pisces in many years. So the equinox is about balance. It's a very sacred portal, whether you're in the south or the north, whether it's spring or fall for you. We honor, this video is for the equinox as well, because that balancing, that's the goddess Mat. That's this pendant I have on. That is the scales, and that is the energy of Libra that's coming. So I encourage you to meditate at the equinox. I'll be launching this new course at the equinox, so look for that and allow yourself to revel in the beauty of nature. Lilith's realm is the elemental realm. Although it's been tainted and the sacred and the profane have been in bed together, her power for regeneration, we cannot regenerate without her, put it that way. There's a saying in alchemy, even with the sexual force, that we need a little bit of lust to get that serpent moving. To annihilate lust is to absolutely cancel out alchemy. There has to be lust is desire. There has to be a calling and a desire, and then we transmute it as we go. So the equinox is a sign of sacred marriage, and it's a sign of balancing of fire and water, and it's the holiness of the earth. It's the holiness of this journey in the underworld. It's profound as we enter Libra. You know, Vesta and Mercury were conjunct at the full moon lunar eclipse in Virgo. This Virgo rules the Vestal Virgins and the Virgins of Light. Vesta is the planet, the asteroid of the as of the Vestal Virgins, and she was conjunct Mercury, which rules Virgo. Mercury, put it this way, Uranus is a higher octave of Mercury, of alchemy, and Uranus rules the age of Aquarius. So I'm going to be talking more about the Lilith archetype in the next video. You look for that. That will be a shorter video, and I'm going to go into some deep details. So I hope to see you again soon. I'm going to look down and see who's here. Come back and comment and let me know how the lunar eclipse is going for you. And I always love seeing all of you. Make sure to subscribe. And I would appreciate if you give the video a thumbs up if you're here. I did even look to see there's people here. I so am always honored to spend this time with you. And I hope this was helpful. I'll just take a peek down and see. Okay. Oh yeah, book list. Someone said, please book list. Alana, so nice to see you, and Jax, and Shay, and Mari, Jaguar. Jax, I might be saying your name wrong. I hope I'm not. Shay, Shaz. Oh, nice to see all of you. And Jana. Oh, Jana, I wonder what you think. And Kath, lovely to see you. Oh my gosh, and Mary M, I know who you are now. And Sonia, so beautiful to see you. Susan Edwards, I should have asked you where you're all from so people can see, but I see people from everywhere in the world. Paula, Mari. I'm not sure how to say Juliet. Oh, Juliet. Ooh, I like Juliet. Romeo and Juliet is huge. Oh, I only got to play Juliet once in some scene work, but never on stage, in a full-length play. Amazing, amazing. Mari, laughing stock. Yes, laughing stock. Laughing stock. I was thinking livestock, what is the word? Laughing stock. She was the laughing stock. Okay. Martha, so great to see you. My distant relative. And Susan and Vess and Patricia. If there's anything else you want to say, I'll wait for one more minute. I think that's it. I'll just see. Honestly, I had this much more for this video. Like, this is how I stopped writing in my books because I have so many books filled. And I will say this about my book. It's coming. And that's all I'm going to say. It will be here. People ask, it will be here. If I could even, I'm going to write a book about the publishing of the book because it's how badly the currents would rather not that it happen. So let me just see if I see anything else that's huge. I want to talk about conspiracies. So I'll just say this as I close out. I'm going to say two things and then we'll close. Okay. With conspiracies, what they do is they take truth and then conspiracies are used by very powerful forces to create a vortex of energy. Right now, we see they're mostly politicized. It's just so much we could say about politics. It's not what it looks like. And there's a lot of karma involved, meaning that people trying to carry something that they haven't yet integrated. And this is the era where if you haven't integrated it, it's falling. You can say you're fighting for this, but if internally and in your own life, you have betrayed it over and over and over, this is the era of truth where it's going to get more important. Now, we have all messed up in this lifetime. So it's not about judgment, but it is about energy. I want to say something that really did set me off. So I was on this app and I was listening to something about a saint. And when I saw the picture of this saint, I was like, whoa, it's almost like I remembered this saint from another time. I saw the pictures and I shuddered. And then my sister was visiting me, my little sister, who's my goddaughter. And I wanted to get another opinion. I'm like, I'm just going to show you something because when I saw this, something inside me almost exploded. And I showed it to her and she's like, oh my God. She's like, there's evil. And she knows she's not involved in my work at all and has no bone to pick with any of this. She's like, I sense evil. So that's when I saw the mission of this person was a holy war based on the Virgin Mary. I think it was the Knights of the Immaculata or something, but it was to take out what then would be called the Freemasons. So I just want to say a little bit about that because I want to put that in this video. Whether it's the Masons or the Gnostics or the pagans or the women or the people who don't identify in the traditional way that were hunted and killed by various masculine powers. Yes, we've admitted that there are some, well, a lot of those groups were infiltrated by certain groups to turn them into and there are some characters that are huge in the occult. I won't say their names. I want to keep them out of this one, but that got into some really dark stuff. And they were even savants and genius at archetypes, but misused it. The carnal took over and the dark forces came in. That happens. However, this particular situation, people were being burned at the stake for being heretics. I wrote a little bit about the heretics in this, and there is a book called Demonology by King James that talks about this particular era. Now, a lot of people carry what are called the witch wounds. Some of you that I've worked with have that strong, and I do as well. When I was in the Akashic, I was shown a couple lifetimes where, you know, where certain things were taken because of being a witch. Now, oh wow, there was something that was coming and it just kind of escaped. Just one moment. Oh, whew. Okay. The women initiates who have come into the depths to rise in Sophia consciousness have had to plunge into the darkness. And so I'm not going to go into the event that plunged me, but I was shown it and it was awful. Meaning you come and you're a holy woman, but there's an event, a significant event that takes you all the way to the bottom. And so those women, those are the Magdalens, and those that are carrying it have had to live out certain things in order to keep, there's a very real process to keep holding it. And as you get closer and closer, you're still almost like attacked while you're holding it. But you stop sabotaging yourself, you stop turning to the dark for help, and instead you rely upon your own inner Christ force. So but in those times you couldn't because you had to be plunged. I'm right now, a few of you are popping in that I know carry specific work because I've worked with you for healing the woman and the feminine. And I invite you to really understand how significant it is. The people who have been attracted to this work tend to carry it. And it's so holy and so blessed and so protected, but we have to be smart about it. We have to be smart about it. So, okay, I'm going to see if anyone else wrote anything and then we'll close. Oh my God. Dare I say, you popped right in. I'm so happy to see everyone today. And it's just so beautiful. So beautiful. Kim, so nice to see you. Oh, I saw you. I've seen you a couple times. Nice to see you, Kim. Nice to see you, Dorothy. Goddess. Crone goddess. So great to see you. All right. I think I will close out. The next video will be a pre-recorded, uploaded video. Make sure to check back. Happy, happy equinox. Balance your light and your dark. Honor the voice that you have buried because you're ashamed, and start to write about it. Start to understand it. Start to claim the archetypes for it. And so with this, with an honor and the blessings of the artists, the priestesses, those in male form who carry this work. And I want to say also that I honor the core sanctity of the religions on the planet because they all, I've said this many times, they carry the mysteries. And so it's important for me to actually close with this. I don't condemn it because even the mystery of the Eucharist, what it represents is the descent of the Holy Spirit as the Christ force. And if you are on the light side of that and you bow, the mystery that takes place, which I received my whole life because I came in for it, is the community that eats at the banquet table of the Holy Christ merges with the Christ. And so in a real ritual, the Mass that calls in the Christ as the body, what happens is that there is a transmission of that force if the heart is humble and open, and there's a true merging. And there have been many miracles that happen because of this. It's just that I also have a karma. I've said I have a karmic contract to now start to really begin to work with the Magdalene Magi, who are the overseers of this work, and to speak truth, to speak the truth without fear, without influence, and just with divine love. And so I just want to put that out there because a lot of people are finding solace and finding comfort in these places. And any place that there's genuine devotion to the divine, those who are there will receive love and truth. And so I close this first Lilith video out today with divine love, with the archetype of wisdom, the holy wisdom of the serpent and the prophetess. I look forward to journeying with you, with Lilith and Eve in the coming weeks. And so that being said, we bow with amen, amen, amen. So be it, so it is done. Until next time, lots of love.